Hi guys, I'm back with a video. Not done one for a long time. Life's been pretty hectic these past few weeks. I've had lots of Christmas orders to get done. Home life, as some of you know, I've been quite rough recently. My husband's leg, and he's just getting over pneumonia. The kids are ill, so it's been quite a hectic few weeks. So anyway, as promised to the lovely customer who's ordered this, I'm probably a day late. I had a bit of some faffing around yesterday, but that's all sorted, and finally I can do my video. This is my first ever masculine / male junk journal I've done. Quite refreshing. It's nice to do a male one instead of doing all girly and frilly things. So it's 3 signatures and quite a lot of Tim Holtz is going on. Because Tim Holtz is quite good for all the neutral papers and cardstock that he does. This is one of my favourite. I don't know what the name of it is, but I like to use these. This is my second time I've used them. Tried to keep it quite plain, well not plain but quite basic with it being for a man. So he can add some things on there if he wants to. These easily, you just squeeze them in and you can hook things on them. So I've just added like a key and some old, I think it's muslin cloth, onto that, and then I've just left a couple blank. The closure is something different from what I've done. I've always wanted to try and do these kind of closures, and I've used elastic to fasten it, and it just easily undoes and goes back on. At the back I have left this bit like that, so that if the journal does get a little bit bigger, it can easily be untied and then made the hoop a little bit more bigger. So I'll get straight into it. I'll just zoom in and zoom down. There we go. So again, like I said, I've used quite a lot of Tim Holtz card. I do like Tim Holtz. We have like a little tiny journaling card and an envelope at the front. This journal's a bit of a mishmash to suit the customer. It's got a lot of old themed sports inside, which you'll see throughout. It's got World War I and II images, a bit of steampunk, but not a lot of steampunk, and gentleman things. So we start off, and this is kind of like the gentleman kind of theme going on, and then this comes off and we have like a journaling card. And you'll have to excuse me for voice keeps going because I've had a bit of being a bit ill myself, but I do apologise. Done quite a lot of different types of stamping in this journal. And then we've got different types of ephemera. I think these I ordered off AliExpress. They do quite a lot of good vintage look ephemera, and then they just all tuck inside that little pocket there. And then we have some vintage mathematical, I think it's mathematical. It's out of an old vintage book. And then this I've used in quite a few journals. It's out of an old mechanic's diary from the 1962. And I quite like that. That's for the Austen Curs. I think it's the Austen Curs. And this is out of an old vintage game. I don't know what game it's off. I'm not so sure if it's from an old vintage Monopoly game. And then we've just got a stag postcard. And just some sports that I've printed off, sporty journaling card. Graph paper. Again, some stamping, and then I've done some collage. This is an old vintage stamp. And then this is actually off an old vintage book spine. Just used a lot of my bits and pieces out of my tin that I have. And again, this is an old vintage cigarette card. And we have another card out of a cigarette, and then this is just horses, and just some more journaling paper. Horses and hounds. Some vintage ledger paper. Again, I've just been using scraps of my paper that I've got, an old vintage map that I've got, some Tim Holtz card, and then underneath this is an actual tea bag. I went through a stage of collecting all my old tea bags and using the skin of the tea bags. Some tags, what you know, be journaled on. I can stick a photograph on both of them, then you can flip it and then journal on the back of that. And then again, this is another old vintage cigarette card, and I've added an old Tim Holtz gentleman, and just an envelope that can be flipped and tuck things inside of there. And then I've added a few of these pages, and these are out of a really old encyclopedia that I found in the book cycle. Quite a few of them have got ships. I think it's ships and stuff. And then we've got a football charm in the centre. I didn't want to add charms on the fronts like I normally do because I wanted it to be kept a bit more manly. And there's the backs of the journaling cards. Lots of things you can do with them. And stamping. Vintage music paper. I've left quite a lot of space for journaling. And this is a chest. I don't know what it's from. I know I sent off for a pack of vintage game set, and that came with it, and then I just backed it with some card. And this is the other side of the mechanic's diary. And then it flips out. We've got the gentleman's hat. And then this is a journaling tag again that I've used all different types of scraps. And then another vintage cigarette card with a plane on it, and two gentlemen having a puff. What they used to do, whiskey and a cigar, is it? Something like that. And then we have a baseball player from an old book that I had. Making a go-kart. And then we have, now forgive me if I get the saying wrong, Lancaster, or is it, yeah, Lancaster bomber. So I've added quite a few bits and pieces in there as requested. Just some journaling bits and pieces, and some bits of Titanic, because this is a gift for someone who's into history. And then this paper I dyed with red cabbage pickle juice, hoping it would turn out like a pink colour, which it is, but it's turned out blue, and I just like how the paper has ended up. Again, this is out of my very old encyclopedia. Different types of planes. And this is vintage map. And then I've added some images which are from the World War. I don't know which World War it is, sorry for my ignorance. But it's the Lancaster bomber planes. And then we have again some vintage football cigarette cards. And then just an envelope to tuck things inside there, private things. And then again, this is another vintage cigarette card with different types of bits in. And this is an actual vintage playing card. I think there's a couple of these what I've added in. And then just some random journaling paper. And this flips up, but I've tied it down with a safety clip. And again, this, I think this is from a Monopoly game, a vintage Monopoly game, and I just added that. And I made some like little miniature file folders. And then we have a football boot charm for the centre of that signature. And then this is another little pocket. And then in the centre we've got a belly band, which I made with different types of scraps of paper. This is empty inside. And it's just like a thick envelope. I love these kind of envelopes. A bit of steampunk going on. And that's the other side of the baseball player. And then we've got vintage game record score sheet with an envelope. Again, this is the pickled dyed paper. I love how it's turned out. And this is a postage stamp, which is from the I think it's 1970s, I'm not so sure. And again, this is another journaling tag, and I've used all different pieces of old scraps that I've got, and then I stuck on this vintage stamp from, I don't think it's from the 1938, I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's quite an old vintage postal stamp. And then we've just got some bits and pieces in, and again another vintage playing card. And then this is from the 1970s, if you can, 1972. That's another stamp, oh my god, I can't get my words out, stamp. And then again some more mathematical vintage paper. And then we have a massive journaling card. It can be journaled on. I love these. I've not long just got these in, and they're a great way to draw on them, stick photographs, or just basically stick a picture on and then write on the back. And again, we've got some gentlemen. This is one of my favourite pages. In the centre we've got a golf club, and then we have just some ephemera and just different bits and pieces that I've printed off. And on both of these they flip up on each side to journal underneath. This is an actual real vintage photograph what I picked up from, I think it was Times Gone By, I'm not so sure, and it's a guy I think in an army uniform, and I just thought it was quite fitting for the gentleman who's receiving the journal. And then this is a really old vintage, it was off a big massive map what you want to do, and this was the front cover, and I think it was from the 1930s, and I just love how tatty it is, so I just thought, you know, I'll just add that in. I just love the feel of it. So I think that is from the 1930s. I'm pretty sure actually. Is it stuck together? Oh dear, I've got a page stuck together. This is so not. I'll sort that out. And then another collage where I've used scraps of music paper and stuff and just made it into a little pocket. And just a little top pocket at the side with vintage whisker cards, different haircuts. Oh gosh, this is not good. Everything's sticking together. And then just a little flip up there, and another little gentleman on. And then this is another journaling card what I made with different types of scraps. This, I believe, is from Germany off one of my pen pals. And I think it's off a cigar. I've got a couple of these and I just thought it was quite fitting. Obviously this is a postcard and it's got a cigar, so I just thought it was quite fitting for that. And just some card what's been tea dyed, and then an old page out of a really old diary, and then that's the end of it. And then I've added a glassine bag and I've just added some more of these vintage cigarette cards. I don't think I'll be using them again because I don't get a lot of orders for mails, so I've just added in the leftover stuff what I did print off for the journal, so the guy can play around with them. Oops. So that is the end of that. Thank you for watching. Just zoom out. So thank you for watching, guys, and goodbye.